No, I was still getting some instructions about how to answer the questions. The question about the private sector and fees. You know, what I was trying to say originally is that I think let's look at our challenges. Huge levels of unemployment in the country, and therefore high levels of poverty. That's a challenge that must be addressed. It relates to, in part, to large numbers of our people being unskilled in terms of modern methods of production. It's a big challenge which must be addressed if we're going to solve this problem of unemployment. You have gross levels of underdevelopment in the rural areas. I'm talking about the African rural areas. No roads, difficulties even today of water and things like that, which must be addressed. So I'm saying that, you see, you've got, look at the health system. The health system in the country. I'm sure that all of us would agree that we can do a lot more, a lot better with regard to the provision of health for our people. So what I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't say the one and only outstanding problem in the country is higher education, because that's not correct. You got this complex of issues. When you say that you got to eradicate the legacy of colonialism and apartheid, it includes all of these things, including this issue of education. And so, is there not a great need in the country for much higher rates of investment in the economy in order to create jobs? So if we say, let's talk to the private sector, so that the private sector should use its money to pay fees. What are you going to say if I say, let's not do that? Because there are so many of our people unemployed, let's get that money to open new factories in order to reduce levels of unemployment. So I'm saying, I'm really arguing against a notion that you can take one of the challenges, it is a real challenge, the matter of education. But you can't take it in isolation from the rest of the challenges that face our society. Otherwise, we're going to make mistakes if we do that. If indeed there is an investment strike, we ought to be talking to that private sector, because what did they say is, I think Reserve Bank said we are going to grow at what, 1%? We can't. See, to grow at 1% means you are further impoverishing the people. Because as you grow at that 1%, the population is growing at 2.5%. So why don't we say to this private sector, come out and just abandon this investment strike of yours, build more factories, open more mines, get more of our people employed, rather than say to them, forget about that, rather pay fees for high school students or university students. So I'm saying that we need to look at this thing and approach it in its totality. So I wouldn't, myself, if I had to engage that private sector, I wouldn't say my first concern would be this issue of the financing of higher education. Higher education needs to be financed, I agree. But in the complex of the other challenges that we face, I think I would point the private sector in a different direction. Part of the issue about globalization and the African Renaissance and so on, this is part of one of the issues we're discussing here at Timali, international trade and all of these questions. How does the continent locate itself within this global context? Because the process of globalization, it's an objective process which can't be stopped. Globalization process started, in fact, long time ago. Already in the 19th century, the growth of a global market. So as Africans, we got to say, what is this renaissance? What is it that we want to achieve? We want to eradicate hunger. We want to make sure that the peoples of Africa are educated, make sure that the economy is developing in a manner that benefits the masses of the people, and so on. And so to say, look, these are the things that we want to do in the process of this renewal of the African continent. And then to answer the question, but how do you achieve those things in the context of a global world? Because we can't avoid that global world. And it can be done. You see, the part of the argument about developing African integration, economic integration, is about this. That if we looked at the matter of trading with one another on the continent, that would help in terms of the development of our economies. And then of course, we got to ask the question. Well, let me give an example of this. If you go to Nigeria, one of the things you'll find they'll complain about there is that a lot of the manufacturing in Nigeria is kind of stifled by the inflow of cheaper Chinese products. So the Chinese products are competing with Nigerian manufactured goods, and they are cheaper. So if you want, therefore, you want to develop a Nigerian manufacturing, you got to ask the question, what is it that we do to create the conditions for manufacturing to develop in Nigeria? To cushion yourself, therefore, from whatever negative impacts there might be in terms of that global market. So it is possible to do it. It is necessary. We have to achieve that renaissance, but understand that we are operating in the context of this global thing. And the matter, therefore, about African cooperation, African unity, African integration, that capacity of the continent to act together is what makes it possible to deal with this challenge of that encroachment of the process of globalization. There's this question that my colleague, that I couldn't understand. I still do not sure that I did. We were trying to advise each other about what was being said. A public disaffection with the leadership. Disaffection, it's okay. Dissatisfaction. By the public. And lack of response by the party. Is there a challenge in terms of loyalty to the public and loyalty to the party? Did I hear you correctly? Oh, okay. Well, there ought not to be a conflict of that kind, of that loyalty to the public versus loyalty to the party. What is this party? I mean, if it says, as I was saying earlier, if you're the African National Congress, the African National Congress was established to liberate the people of South Africa from colonial oppression, later apartheid oppression. Its only reason for existence, is to serve the public. It should have no other purpose. And therefore, loyalty to the party must be loyalty to the purposes of the party. And to serve the public. I'm saying the issue ought not to arise. Loyalty to the public or loyalty to the party, it ought not to arise like that. But of course, the matter that was raised here, it's correct. I think if you, at the 1997 conference of the ANC in Maikeng, President Mandela, in his political report, paid a lot of attention to a negative phenomenon. Secretary General report also did the same thing. The negative phenomenon was it's a matter that actually had been raised earlier. But I'm saying President Mandela paid a lot of attention to this, that it's quite obvious that there are many people who are joining the ANC with the sole purpose of accessing political power and using that power for self-enrichment. Now that's been, you will see this in all the succeeding reports of the ANC, this discussion of this phenomenon. So, now this is somebody, therefore, who joins the ANC not for purposes of serving the public, but for purposes of serving themselves. Now, that's where this issue then arises. If the public is dissatisfied with the leadership, I'm saying the ANC as it was established to ought to be sensitive to the fact that the public is dissatisfied. Precisely because I'm saying its only reason for existence is to serve the public. If the public are dissatisfied, the ANC ought to look at itself to say, what is it that we have done that is wrong, which results in the dissatisfaction of the public. If it is not happening, it will tell you to tell a story. that there's something that has happened, something negative that's happened that has changed the nature of the quality of the membership of the organization. Which then, if my task, if my objective, I joined this ANC, I'm going to become a mayor as a result, and then I'm going to be handing out tenders to my friends and get necessary kickback. I need the instrumentality of the ANC to put me in this position of mayor. Therefore, I will be extremely loyal to that ANC and disloyal to the public. Because I'm saying that it tells you something about the change in the nature of the leadership. There was Rev Chikane. You know Reverend Chikane. He was telling me, he says that after Polokwane, the ANC conference in Polokwane 2007, some of his comrades in Soweto, part of the ANC leadership there, they were talking to him and they said to me, Comrade Frank, you see, conference took place in Polokwane, Comrade Thabo and his other comrades were defeated, but we blame Comrade Thabo himself. So Frank says, but what has he done? No, it's his fault. You see, the problem with that chief of yours is that, he would not allow us even a little bit of space to put something in our pockets. We didn't want to take too much, just a little bit. But he wouldn't allow it. Because he would discover this thing, you'd get into a lot of trouble. That's the problem. So we needed somebody who's going to give us a little bit of space to put something in the pocket. So I say, Frank, really? Frank says, President, I'm telling you what they say, these comrades. If you had allowed that bit of space, they would have voted for you. Now, you see, that's, I'm saying, a person like that will be loyal to the ANC because it puts them in the positions where they can then accumulate that wealth. And by definition, disloyal to the public. But that's a different kind of member of the ANC, and I trust that the ANC would want to address that. So, it relates to the matter that you are raising about the quality of leadership. It is true that, we were very fortunate growing up in the ANC and therefore engaged in struggle and discussion, all sorts of things. It helped us to develop, and maybe that possibility does not exist today for younger people. And therefore maybe the mentorship thing is important. I know that there are quite a lot of people in the ANC who've been raising this matter quite correctly about the need for political education as part of the process of bringing up the cadres in a systematic fashion. And of course, engaging them in the struggle in terms of as it manifests itself today. What are the challenges that we face? So that it's not just a matter about going to political class, but also engaging the people in terms of the process. One of our colleagues here was saying at the beginning, don't just put a certificate on the wall. be part of this change agent, these thought leaders, go into the villages and so on. So I'm saying that that kind of engagement was part of the process of the development of these cadres. It is a problem. It is a problem because many people will pay whatever the subscription is, and that's all you need. Then you are a member. But surely that can't be sufficient. That can't be sufficient if you then are going to play a role as a leader. The fact that you've got a membership card does not mean that you've got the value system, the perspective, the policy understanding that a leader needs. So I'm saying it is sure it's a challenge, but as I say that, I know that people like, for instance, Khalima Mutlante talks about this a lot and does something about it in terms of the political education. I agree with you about the matter about career guidance. It is important. You know, many years ago in exile, there's a young comrade. So I asked him, he must have been about 16, 17 or thereabouts. So I asked him, I said, no, what do you plan to do? So he says, no, he wants to go to school. So I said, that's a good idea. To do what? No, he wants to be a medical doctor. So I said to him, well, what about studying agriculture? No. I say, why? No, you see, agriculture. And when he talks about it, he's got an image of a farm worker, African farm worker here at home. So that is his image of agriculture. So I said to him, no. You see, the term agriculture is very broad. For instance, you need the soil science about soil, to go and take soils and test them and so on in order to see how to enrich and all that. You can do that. Oh, I see that. I say, yeah, sure. This is connected to agriculture. And I say to him, you see, and you see that work of testing the soils and then this and then taking decision about what chemicals to put in and so on. You do that in a laboratory wearing a white overcoat. He says, is that so? I say, yes, that is so. No, now he's interested. Because the white overcoat, that's career guidance. I think it's necessary because clearly I'm sure that, you see, even matter that we're talking about, to what extent are our young people genuinely inspired to go into the TVET colleges? Again, I was saying that I spoke I was in Port Elizabeth many months ago. And I posed this question to students who were there, to say, what are you studying at university? Because I was saying to them, look, unfortunately, you can study sociology, 100 of you. Then what happens when you pass? You got a bachelor's degree in sociology. What happens? You leave university. Where are you going to get a job? Sociology is an important subject, but career guidance. to say, no, let's not go that route, let's go this other route. I'm sure I agree. It must be an important part of our revamping the entire system of education. Eastern Cape schools. What's the problem? You know, I was told a story. I won't tell you which province. It's not about schools. This province, one of our provinces here, it pays a lot of money. The health department in the province pays a lot of money settling cases of people who are suing the health department because of wrong diagnosis of people in public health and so on, and having to pay a lot of money, settling a lot of money out of court, a lot of cases out of court. So, and a new MEC is appointed, and the new MEC sees this thing that so much money, instead of buying medicines and drugs, was settling court cases. Got somebody to have a look at this. A lady, a woman, lawyer, who had, she'd been a nurse before, but she qualified, was practicing as a lawyer. And what she tells me is that what she discovers is that the lawyers, the legal department in the Department of Health has got links to lawyers in the private sector. So what they do, they are sitting in the department. They get these reports that there was some mishap in some hospital. Somebody got paralyzed, whatever. They then get hold of the private lawyer and give the lawyer all the details of this case. So the lawyer goes and finds the relatives and says, I'm going to act for you to sue the government. And indeed they sue the government. The legal department in the department is waiting for that. And then they go to the MEC, they say, MEC, look, there's no need to defend this case. We'll lose it in court. Let's settle out of court. So poor MEC is advised by the legal department, let's settle out of court. Otherwise, instead of, they will have to pay 1,000 rand if we go to court, but if out of court, we'll pay 800. MEC says, okay, no, let's settle out of court. And they share the spoils. The lawyers in the department and these lawyers in private practice in one of our provinces. That's an actual case. So lots and lots of money going, these are crooks. I'm asking the question, what's wrong with schools in the Eastern Cape? It can't be that those people are, unlike other people in the country, they are incompetent or something. There must be something wrong. The last story I'll tell was, in Okocha and Ngocha, during the time we were building that port, there was a particular presidential fund to support that development. So the CEO at Kocha sends a message, urgent, need so much money to do whatever. So fine, we'll disperse the money. So there's a letter that's written, giving instructions to the banks and so on. which has to go to an office in the Eastern Cape government. So the letter goes, 4 weeks later, 3 weeks, the CEO complains. But I did say this thing was urgent. Why is there no movement? So the presidency says, no, but we've done what we had to do. And you know what the problem was? There's this letter which gets to the provincial government. Now, it requires that it must be countersigned by 2 officials, then taken to the bank and the money is released. It arrives at the desk of this official who signs. The second official is down the passage in another office. But the letter is sitting with this one was signed. And the reason is because the office messenger is on leave. So there is nobody to take this letter and walk 10 meters the passage to give to the other official. It's sitting here simply because the office messenger was on leave. Which is why the CEO at Kocha was complaining. That's what all that held it up was the absence of an office messenger. Eastern Cape government. What's wrong with the schools there? Thanks.